Chapter 11. Change Your Destiny. Forget the past. The vanished lives of all men are dark with many shames. Human conduct is ever unreliable until anchored in the divine. Everything in future will improve if you are making a spiritual effort now. Swami Sri Yukteswar in Autobiography of a Yogi. Yogananda quoted Sri Yukteswar's words as the most helpful statement in his entire autobiography. They are at once consoling and encouraging. Consoling because we've all made mistakes in the past, and we are bound to make more until we are fully anchored in the divine. The greatest saints and masters have all erred on the long journey to freedom. Sri Yukteswar is advising us that guilt and regret are not helpful. The words are encouraging because they remind us that we can gain control of our destiny simply by making the right spiritual effort now. His promise is supported by Krishna's advice in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, stanza 40. In this path of yoga action, there is no danger of unfinished business, nor are there latent within it the opposite, canceling effects of duality. Actions performed for selfish gain always have a karmic rebound. Spiritual effort, any selfless action, is different. Such actions are only liberating. Don't worry about all the karma you must still work out, or any mistakes you have made. Instead, begin making a spiritual effort now. People mistakenly think of their destiny as fixed and out of their control. I've heard people claim belief in a fixed destiny as an excuse for not taking proper precautions during times that call for it. If it's my destiny to die, I'll die, so why bother being careful? That way of thinking is true only in this way. If you don't look both ways before crossing a busy street, you may well be run over and killed. Yes, it was your destiny, but you chose that destiny by choosing to ignore common sense. Our destiny is always a choice that we make, now or in the past. What of those past karmas, those destinies, that still must come to us? Can we head them off before they reach us? Can we mitigate their effects? Swami Kriyananda once gave me some helpful advice about a past karma that nearly led to my death. In 1999, when I still practiced some mountain climbing, I was descending a very steep and icy slope. Suddenly, a boulder came crashing down the mountain and smashed into my leg. I could only stumble and crawl for the next hour as I sought help. Although I had been alone on that part of the mountain, I miraculously found some other climbers and was soon being airlifted to a hospital. That was the end of my mountain climbing career. Soon after, Kriyananda remarked that if you have the karmic destiny to die by getting hit by a boulder falling off a precipice, then for the time being, you should avoid being under precipices. But then came the important message. In the meantime, he said, work on increasing your magnetism. Once your magnetism is strong enough, the same karma may cause only a minor injury instead of death. Our magnetism is a protective aura, like a force field around us. When, for example, a cold virus is spreading around the community, a person who is run down or whose immune system is weakened will be more likely to catch the virus. Those with a strong immune system will stay relatively healthier. Negative thoughts similarly weaken our magnetism and can make us more vulnerable to catching the negativity in the world. Increasing our magnetism is the best protection against receiving the full effects of past bad karma. It also attracts the help we need, including the right people and circumstances. A strong magnetic field can change our karmic destiny. Kriya Yoga because it goes to the very heart of our magnetism in our inner self, is the most effective tool to help us develop that protective shield. Strong willpower, too, can help us change our destiny. Yogananda taught that when you can control your destiny by willpower, then you can do tremendous things. When I moved to Ananda village in 1977, I was drawn to the energy and joy I saw in the people there. I didn't foresee the tremendous growth of Ananda that later came. Most of us were living in small trailers and teepees. The previous year, a fire had burnt down nearly all the homes. We must have seemed, to worldly eyes, a ragtag, poor, unskilled group of naive idealists. How to account for the dramatic change in this humble group into what is now a worldwide spiritual movement numbering many thousands? The power behind the transformation lies in the principles of Kriya Yoga. Looking at photographs of myself and others before Kriya Yoga and after Kriya Yoga, I can say that without exception, the change is as clear as between night and day. Yogananda said we won't even recognize ourselves after learning and practicing Kriya Yoga. A basic principle of Kriya is worth repeating. When we think more of giving to others and to God, and less of looking out for number one, ourselves, we find that somehow things begin working out for our own highest good. Our destiny begins to change. A beautiful story told by the Indian author and poet Rabindranath Tagore illustrates this truth. A very impoverished man, the story goes, lived in a simple village with his wife and children. One day he saw a grand procession traveling on the main road toward the village. When he saw the king of the country approaching with his retinue, he couldn't believe his eyes. Here was his once-in-a-lifetime chance to ask for help from the wealthiest man in the kingdom. As the king's carriage approached, the man stood at the side of the road and held his hand out for a donation. To his surprise, the carriage halted, and the king stepped out and approached him. It was indeed a life-changing moment for him. To his stunned surprise, the king asked him, "What do you have to give to me?" The poor man reached into his pockets. All he had was a bundle of rice grains that he had bought for the family's meal. He gave the king one single grain of rice. That night, when he reached home, he took out the rice to prepare for cooking. Imagine his surprise when he discovered that among the grains of rice was one that had turned into pure gold. Imagine his dismay. "Oh, what a fool I was. I should have given him all that I had." Whatever we give to God, including our very life, becomes sanctified. It isn't that God needs anything. The spiritual law of giving and self-offering is for our benefit. It is the surest way to change our destiny. Yes, we can change our destiny. Who else but we have created the circumstances of our present existence? Begin making more of the right spiritual effort now, and everything in the future will improve. The way forward is that simple. Please remember that all suffering is, in the last analysis, self-generated. God doesn't will it on us. It comes as a result of the misuse of our own will, whether recently or in the distant past. Suffering can be banished by the right use of will. As Sri Yukteswar said, "Forget the past. The vanished lives of all men are dark with many shames. Everything in future will improve if you are making a spiritual effort now." Don't think in terms of doing one thing big enough to lift you out of your present state. Think rather in terms of taking one step at a time. Commit yourself to some positive act, however small, and carry that act through to completion. Finish whatever you start. When you make the right effort and then invoke God's power to sustain you in that effort, you will find Him reinforcing you and giving you the strength gradually to win out over all obstacles. But you must make the right effort first. God cannot help you until you yourself first try your best. Swami Kriyananda, in Divine Friendship.